Hey guys, welcome to another lesson in U.S. history, and today we're going to take a closer look at America's first Constitution, the Articles of Confederation. Now, you might be familiar with the law that rules our land today, the Constitution that was drafted in 1787, but 10 years prior to that, during the middle of the American Revolution, we needed a government in place, and that's when the Articles were drafted. The underlying theme of the Articles of Confederation is sovereignty or power. And the question was, where should the power reside? In the states or in a strong central government? What we're basically talking about is the principle of federalism, or the division of power between a central and its state governments. Now, under the U.S. Constitution, it looks a lot like this, where power is divided equally between the federal government and state governments. However, with the Articles of Confederation, there was an absolute fear of too strong of a central government, so the states are going to be given a lot more power, with the exception of foreign relations. That belong completely to the federal government. Let's take a minute and look at the structure of the Articles of Confederation, specifically Articles 2 and 3. Article 2 states that each state will retain its sovereignty, freedom, and independence. What that basically means is every state is an independent entity. They're going to form their own government and have their own power. Article 3 is going to talk about the relationship between these independent states. It basically says that they're going to form a firm league of friendship that in the event that any of them are being threatened, they will come together for the common defense of all. Now, what they're basically forming here is not a union, but instead a confederation, a military alliance. And that's what the United States was under the Articles of Confederation. Now, when you look at the governing part of it, each state had equal representation. They all had one representative in the central government, and each state had the same voice. To change a law or to make a law, they needed 9 of the 13 states to agree. But if they wanted to change the government, they needed all 13 states to agree. It had to be unanimous, and that's tough to do. There was no executive branch. There was no federal judiciary branch. All you had was the legislative branch. In essence, the Articles of Confederation had a very weak federal government. There was some success, though, under the Articles of Confederation. Number one, we won the war, which was huge, but we also drafted the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, which set the guidelines for creating new states in our Union. Within the Northwest Ordinance, very important to realize, there was no slavery allowed. This is the first anti-slavery law in our country. But there were more problems than there were successes. And let's look at a few of those. First of all, we had no money. Our economic system was non-existent. And that had a lot to do with all the debt we carried over from the war, and the fact that the federal government did not have the power to tax, so they couldn't raise revenue. Some of these problems is actually going to lead to a rebellion within our country. It's known as Shays' Rebellion. It happened in Western Massachusetts, and it's going to be the debtors versus the creditors. And it was due to the fact that we had a shortage of hard currency. When you hear the term hard currency, that refers to gold and silver. Oftentimes, paper currency doesn't hold value. And so a lot of these creditors want to be paid in hard currency. Let's look at both sides of this conflict. On the debtors' side, these are the Western Massachusetts farmers. They had fought in the American Revolution. They've come home and they're facing mounting debts on their land. They're looking for relief from those debts. They want to be able to pay those debts with paper money, and they want to stop the creditors from foreclosing on their property. The creditors, though, these are Boston bankers. They want their money, and they want it paid in hard currency because it holds its value. And it's the creditors who are dominating the Massachusetts legislature. So when the debtors go, these farmers go and look for help, they're going to a legislature who's trying to get their money. This is when Shays' Rebellion is going to erupt in Western Massachusetts. Daniel Shays is an American Revolutionary War veteran who is going to put together a rebelling force of 4,000 farmers from Western Massachusetts. They called them Shayites. And they're going to try to overthrow the Massachusetts state government because of this debt crisis. The state government's going to call the federal government and say, hey, we need help. Send the army. The problem was the Articles of Confederation did not give the federal government the power to tax. And if they didn't have the power to tax, they don't have the power to finance an army. So Massachusetts has ended up on their own, and they're actually going to hire a private army to come in and put down this rebellion. After this was all over, the consensus amongst all the leaders of our country was we need a stronger central government. This is what's going to lead to us changing from the Articles of Confederation to the U.S. Constitution. Quick review. The Articles of Confederation were very weak, and it's primarily because the federal government had no power. There was no executive branch, there was no federal judiciary, and they didn't have the power to tax. Because of this, the need for a new government was called for, and the U.S. Constitution is going to be created, which is still in existence today. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.